Let's get started. First of all, good afternoon, good morning to everyone, wherever you are. I hope you're all staying well in this difficult time. And maybe you have even already attended the first time of the first day of the Atlassian remote summit yesterday. And today will be the second day. And as part of the remote summit, we are offering also a series of webinars here. So we had webinars yesterday, and this is our first webinar for today. In this webinar, we will talk about advanced linking in Jira. So we will show you why is linking important, what can you use linking for, and what are the restrictions in Jira, in this native Jira features, and why did we think that an add-on to advance this linking feature is actually super helpful to increase the functionalities of Jira and to build a lot of use cases right into Jira, and you won't have the need of, for example, using several different tools in addition to Jira when you can actually implement those use cases into Jira and eventually even build out kind of an ERP system for yourself in Jira. So welcome to this webinar. Thanks everyone for joining. And if you have questions, I will be here monitoring the chat and the Q&A section. So just feel free to enter your questions anytime, and I will try to answer them while Marie is presenting. So Marie, feel free to start.
Yeah, great. Shall we introduce us just shortly again? So my name is Marie. You already heard Daniel, my colleague sitting in New York, and me, I'm based in Berlin. And yeah, let's get started about what use cases can enrich your linking functions in Jira. So I will start with a short presentation here, and later on we go into the system, watch some use cases, and look into configuration. I try to not get too much stick on the slides because here it's our biggest app, and there are a lot of use cases, there are a lot of stuff to configure, and so that's why it makes sense to start with a bigger picture at the beginning. And so let's see about how normal Jira linking is working. I guess you're all familiar with it. So in Jira Standard, you have the linking option that you can link one issue to another and define like the inward and the outward link, like relates to and is relating or blocking or whatever. And yeah, that's it for Jira Standard. And if you have a closer look at it, there come some limitations with that linking. So the option to restrict available links are not given, or to restrict selectable issues for linking. You can't restrict the number of selectable issues. You can just link hundreds if you want so, and you can also not adjust the display style of the links. And it's also it's basic, so there are no option about advanced dynamic logic or something more sophisticated, which could serve different needs. We will have a look into the webinar. And also advanced search is not possible, and nor even any kind of visualization in the network. So there are a couple of problems we try to address with STAGIL navigation. And for that, it's also important to understand about how this Jira links can be enhanced with relation, because the core of linking an issue is a relation between that issue. So if you want to have more sophisticated linking option, it's crucial that you can have more advanced relation configuration options, so that you can select the issues you want to relate with logic A and B. So on the one side, do you want maybe to limit that you can only select one issue to link, but on the other side, on the outward links, the output could be much more. So you can make differentiation and define maximum relations. Or if you want to have a dynamic in sense of based on the first entry I made, I want to have other linking options. And not just like I can link something with something others, and I can link every issue, and every issue will be displayed. So it's really hard for especially some users to find the right issues they're looking for, because often you only need a very restricted amount of issues you want to link, but there are no possibilities to like pre-configure to make it more easy to access the links I really need. So by that, we develop a STAGIL Assets Advanced linked. And here we try to address it, that you can manage links in asset relations fields and put that advanced logic behind the links, like having different display styles, adding attributes, also have more advanced JQL options, and configure quantity and dynamic. Also, you can display links in hierarchy or network graphs, so you have a better visualization about the relations between the different linking objects, and having just more also transparency in that point. By that, you can also navigate through the asset hierarchy and using the native Jira-based asset navigator, and also use, like I mentioned, the advanced JQL functions and add some highlights like avatar and QR codes. In the use cases I will show you, you will get some examples about how this could look like and what situations this can have a fit. So when we look at use cases, especially for smaller companies, it can replace like a whole ERP system as any kind of, because what we are trying to do here is like treating every issue in a company can be referred as an object of any kind. So an object could be a CMDB that you can manage your smartphones or computer laptops and other hardware, or also software and licensing. You can manage your people, your staff as human objects of your company, like human assets. Also your CRM contacts there, that you manage the deals with them, or the different contact people, contact organization, partners. You can use it for managing your products and setting different hierarchies within the issues and also in the project. So there are really multiple use cases, and the aim is that you can like use the power of Jira and like minimize the number of other tools you need to integrate and all the problems which come with like synchronization of data and so on. So you really try to facilitate it here. And when you're speaking on an enterprise level, then it's also very useful for teams to set up like also something like a contract management or some legal governance compliance risk, or like mentioned before, the hardware CMDB, so that you have a more advanced ITSM management. So that's all possible with it. And so that makes it really, really broad, and there are a lot of use cases. And that brings you that you have more control over the issues in Jira so that you can be more efficient. You know where your issues are and you know what's connected to something. Like when you have your stuff, for instance, you can track on which assets they hold, if the assets they are having, if they have problems, so that you have more efficiency and more transparency. And you can also like increase your communication and understanding between IT and other business units. If you have integrated to a service desk, for instance, and you can also see which assets are more functioning, are in repair, something, where are tickets to some assets, so that you know exactly what's going on with the assets in your company. And this also increases the customer service by having just the right information in the right place, like having everything available in Jira without need to change the system, go through other apartments, ask colleagues. So you try to have it really in one source. And by that, this will save like a lot of time. So you can have a really cost reduction of asset management because you have a consistent structured order just in one hand. And yes, like also it's increased support for security and disaster recovery readiness, because you're more faster, more able to find like where also something is maybe lacking or not. And with regard again to product management, it can also help you by budgeting and just managing strategic decisions and processes. So that was kind of the introduction. And now just have a look and to make it more clear about how the idea looks in the system. So STAGIL asset in Jira comes with a default entry in the navigation bar. Oh, I need to refresh it here. So it's that one, so that you can firstly search for assets and also have a direct link to the documentation if you need some support here. And first of all, it's great to have an overview about all my relation in my company. So that is rather known as the entity relationship model, which you have here in Jira. So we will have a look into the configuration. Like I said, the relations are the core of the app and about the linking management. And here I have an overview about how are the dependencies in my company and what is connected to what, and is it bidirectional or just in one direction. So you get a clear idea of what your company can exist of. We will start with the CMDB use case. Maybe some of you remember from yesterday, we had this little like a Star Wars close use case. And so you can imagine that this is like the big spaceship, and we want to get track about the spaceship and what are the elements of it. So here you already start with asset by you can choose an avatar which you can upload to make it more visible about how the asset looks like. So it could be also a machine or a laptop or an iPhone or whatever. And continuing, you can have like different options. So here it comes already clear that the stay at the celestial body, which is the planet, can be only one, because every space shuttle can only be settled down on one planet. And that's why what you can restrict here, that you don't can't link hundreds of planets here, but only one. And by the display style, which is a label with a pop-up, you can also get additional information about the spaceship, and you can define about what extra information should pop up when they go to that label. What also comes with the app is a space shuttle no, it's a health check, and here it's called Space Shuttle Health Check. So you have this traffic light symbol, and it can have like different colors. Here they're configured as green, yellow, and red. And we see in this asset panel that the spaceship contains different equipment elements, and one element is in repair, and that is why the reason why it turns to yellow here. And if I go to the super laser in that case and just set it to repaired, and refresh that issue here, then it should turn to green again. So here you can like have a very clear overview with just one side if everything is going wrong or right with that asset or not. And if you have a lot of elements here, you can also make use of JQL so that you can only filter maybe some equipment parts which are in repair, or you can add other issues directly here right in the table. So if you buy a new element, that you can have this linking directly and don't need to do it manually. Or what is also possible is that you can create a QR code, so you could print it out and like put it on all your assets, which can be a machine or printer or a computer or whatever where you need it. And all these panels, they are completely configurable, and they are based on that relation. So the space shuttle equipment can be multiple ones. So here you can have select like you can restrict it to 20 or have as much as you need here. And you can see which, yeah, in that case, weapons are here, which is the crew of it. So you have a lot of information, which is just in one issue. And it all comes native in Jira issues. So every relation and every CMDB entry, which is here, it's just another issue in Jira. So there's like nothing, no external objects which are like imported in Jira. It just comes with making Jira issues to define in a different meaning. And what you can also see here is a relation graph, which comes with every issue, so that you can see how this issue is related. So for instance, you're maybe looking for where Darth Vader is and you want to figure out, then you can select here in the linking types only the crew and the CRM crew. And let's try to find them. So we can't see him here, but we could like show the second level and see if he could be there. Of course, we need to yeah, eliminate some people here so that it's not too confusing. But we can see that there's another spaceship. So, or I could also look for him in the building. But in that view, only 2 levels are displayed. And if I want to see who is in the spaceship located here, then I also need to enable the 3rd level. So you can make it up to 4 levels. And now we see how complex the connection between in your company they are. And to make it more easy to look for the relevant one, you can just deselect all. And then we can have a look at the other space shuttle and only look which people are located in the space shuttle, which are the CRM crew and the crew. And here we are. Now we have Darth Vader in the 3rd hierarchy levels. So that's also this kind of visualization, so that you, this could be also like the department, who's working which department, so that you get an understanding. You can also display it more as a network or here as a hierarchy. And when you click on the different issues, you also get extra information about it. So having it here, and yeah, just having that in one place. So when we go back, we can now imagine a second use case. So imagine that you are maybe Lucky Skywalker and you want to report that something is not working on a spaceship. So that's a ITSM use case, which I would like to show you next. And for that, I want to log in as Luke Cloudwalker. And to see about which dynamic options to have to select certain issues here. So he's flying his X-Wing fighter and having a problem. So maybe he got infected and needs to stop, and something got broken during his trip. So he needs to report a space shuttle problem. And say I have a problem. So there are some Confluence articles already popping up, but we want to select which asset is affected, and we can only see 3 assets. And that's because the configuration was set that they should only look about assets which are connected to him. So he can only select the ones which he owns. And here, this X-Wing fighter is defect. And based on that, here comes the dynamic. You can select also the affected part of it. So maybe it's that part. And now he can just create this ticket. And meanwhile, we can have a look about how this is looking like. So when I go to the team support queue, just loading a bit, then I will see all tickets, and I have a problem. That's the newest one. So let's have a look about how it is. And we can see that the reporter also has some other tickets already opened, but it's not linked in that case. But you can see the linking here. So you see that
it was the wrong ticket.
It was the wrong one.
This is
yeah.
86. The latest one is 88.
It was 88.
It's WSD 88. The one you just created. Here, the third one from the top. 88.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Ah, yeah, and now you see. We also have a pop-up here with additional information if you have some. And so here are the information also linked in that. And again, it's only one, that you have a restriction here that you can only link to one, because every incident issued ticket just relates to one part and one asset. So, and what you can also decide is where you want to place the ticket. Like here we have the CRM panel, and the panel information, as this is meant to be on the right side, but other like are also here. And you can define if you want to have it in the detail app, or if you want to define extra panels like you have here on the CRM one. So that's the ITSM use case. And lastly, I want to show you the project management use case. So let me close some tabs here. And therefore, we have like one portfolio issue. And here you can see multiple. So you can define multiple traffic lights and define them based on budget or time or resources. So there are multiple options, and you could also change the color in the colors you want to have. And here you have like different issue types, different logic. So here are displayed included projects of that one portfolio. So this can also help you to visualize within Jira issues the connection to other Jira issues. And also you have like a sum calculation here direct in this table view. So this gives you an idea about what is your budget. And yeah, let's have a look at one of this and go maybe to the setup data center Malaysia. And here again, you have yeah, like a first signage if everything is going right or not. And you can also do with people. So here you see the project stuff. So which of the users are involved into that project, but you have to be careful that there are no Jira users. So they can be Jira users, but they don't have to be, because there are also just Jira issues here. And you have a milestone, which is just another example about how you can visualize your project management data. Or you can also see the project customer, and this is how you can see the CRM could look like. So you have this customer, the company which is called NANG in the organization, and you can store just the details as an address here, and also can see the contacts about who I am in contact with this project. So and have these details just in that view, and also having deals here, so you can directly create the deal as a Jira issue and set them to status. So we see that we also finished some workshops, and the roadmap is in delivery, but we are waiting still for order here. And let's have a look about, yeah, this Jira issue. So it's always the inward and the outward linking, which you can see here. So you always got both sides. And when you go to the person, then you can also see the contact. And here we can see that she is responsible for the operations of the contact, so that you see which contact deals she owns and where she's responsible for, and that can be different people, and you can just find it out very quickly by having just one overview. Also, you can use, no, it's not where I wanted to go. When you go to the PM project pipeline, I want to quickly give you an overview about how these traffic lights also can be used. So it can be a very, very quick impression about if everything is going right. So here they are defined as timeline and as budget, and you can see if everything is all right or if you need to do something. And if you go here, you just see by one side that something is going on here, that we are behind, and that we have to have some action here. So that's what you can also have. So lastly, I want to go into some configuration of that. So you got now a lot of impression about how this is looking like. And we won't have the time to go like into every configuration setup, but if you have some questions, of course, you can just ask. And I will show you just some basic configuration which you can do. And starting by that is the core of it, which I was mentioning a couple of times, is the relation. And here is like the relation configuration. And you can just define about how this relation should look like. So when you add a new relation, then comes a new entry here. And for every relation, you enter an inward link and also an outward link. So that are the panels which will be displayed later. So when we go, for instance, to related maintenance ticket, which is in the relation troop support and the equipment, which we just had, then you can, here is where you can restrict about how many issues should be selectable for that relation. So if you type 0, then it's unlimited, but you could also just limit it to 20 or whatever. And here you define the project, or via JQL, which issues can be selected. And that case, it's the project of troop support. And on the display style, you can define whether it's, should have an extra panel. And if not, it's just part of the detail tab. But you can also define it asset, people, or CRM, as we saw with the other tickets. And let me show how it looked like on the other side. So here are the related maintenance ticket. And even it looks a little bit like a table, but it is not. Actually, the labels are just listed one by another, and you have the information. So you can say, just give me the key, or also give me the summary. And we also have the assignee here and the status. And if you want to have this configured differently, you could also decide to do it as a table. So let me save it, and you can see how this will change. So yeah, it depends on where you want to place it. So here it's just more ordered in the table form, that you have the separators and also the status with colors. So you can decide about how it should look like. And when we go back into that configuration, yeah, you see the different, if you want to have summary shown, or key and summary. So here are all the options about how it should be viewed. And here are the dynamics. So I can show you about the dynamic we had in the IT ticket. If you remembered when Luke Cloudwalker just reported that spaceship problem. And that's something you find here, because first he was selecting the affected asset. And after that, he selected his own assets. So it was defined that it's only selectable assets from the users. And after that, that popped out that he can also select the part. So let's have a quick look about how this looks to have this dynamic here. So selectable issues are from type equipment. And when we go to the dynamics, then we first need to decide where the dynamic should be based on. And it should be based on the relation we just selected before. And here we are using the conditions about which kind of issue issue entry should be selectable, and it should be the type of space shuttle. And here you can also see the advanced relation JQL option, which is coming true. So you go into that issue which you selected and look in that issue with this issue in relation about which one you want to have as a new selection for the second entry. And that's the one where it's looking at. And of course, it should be not the space shuttle itself, because here we are using looking for the part. And that's why we exclude it. And by that, you can get this dynamic. And to also get an idea about this JQL, I just want to show you another example. So when you type in issue in relation, then you always need to enter 3 parameters. So first, you define which is the issue where should it be based on. And here maybe we want to find out which are the contexts of that company. So we take the company key, and then we define what is the relation. And here it's a relation between organization and contact, and also define the level on which it's looking. And here it's just directly in that relation. So it's level 1. And here we get all the contacts which are listed. What else you can do to also have a lot of less configuration effort is that you can use the one-click setup. So for the 3 use cases, CMDB, CRM, and HR, we already defined the quick setup. So which mainly means that you do not need to configure the workflows, the screens, and the relation. It's already done there, so that it's more easy to get started there. And what else I want to show you for overview is panels which we were talking about. So we saw that some panels are on the right side and some on the left side. So you can just define in which panels it should show up. And maybe let's have a look at another ticket. So we saw that the CRM panel, which is on the right side configured, and the affected assets and parts, they are not in a specific asset panel, so they are just in the detail tab. But here could be also the related group support ticket will show up here. So that's what you can define here under panels. Yes, and maybe one last thing I want to show is the graph configuration, so that here's where you can add this hierarchy, which was showing up here. So in that configuration, you can say about when I enter the hierarchy, which should become first and second and third and so on. So that's what you can also define here. And of course, there are many other configurations, but for like a first overview, I would leave it until here. And the last thing I want to show you at the end are the custom fields, which come with STAGIL Assets. So when you go to issues to custom fields, you can select like the, that STAGIL Assets custom fields. So we saw the avatar, which is that one. So you can define whether it's oval or a rectangle picture. And you can have this configure the barcode, which is also kind of easy. But you can also have this have traffic assets traffic light. And we had this example with the space shuttle have check. So that's why I want to show you that again. Remember, this was Z1, so when the super laser gets in repair, that it turns into yellow. And this looks like this. So here's where you can define the color of the traffic light. And you can say where is the issue source and select it and say, okay, it should be one relation because it's related to the equipment. And it's level 1, and only types of equipment should be used for that. And you can say, okay, if there's no, if the status is not in malfunction or repair, only then it's green. And as soon as there's one asset, one equipment part in repair, it turns into yellow. And if 3 are in repair, so if this 3 one would be in repair, then it won't turn into red. So it's just up to you about your needs, how you can configure that. And the same is also with the lookup field. So you can have a look about the reporter's open ticket. So let me find the issue. Here it was a related open ticket. So there are just this is the lookup field, so you can define a predefined select list about what issues could be also relevant here based on a relation. And here it is that I report a problem and I want to see if this reporter already reported other tickets and maybe they are connected here so that I get fast to related information. So to end, I want to just quickly show how this looks like. No, I'm on the traffic light again. I think it was report opens ticket as its lookup field. We go into configuration. And here is also where you can define which panels. So it's CRM, and that's why it's on the right one. It's as a table, and also define the JQL about how when this which fields, which issues should be shown here. So that's basically the tour. So I know that there's a lot of information which was just coming into input. And if there are some questions, so that's the time now to ask them. And I think if there are no questions left, we had a lot of information so far. So Daniel, maybe can you give you an overview if there's something we need to clarify in the end?
Thank you, Marie. That was great. Yeah, this add-on and the whole tour about how linking works, how it can be improved, and the endless use cases that we have here. It's a lot of information. Of course, we have all documentation online. So if you have any questions or you want to look up certain features, you can do so. Just look up all documentation. The easiest way to find it is to go to STAGIL Assets on the marketplace, and there's the link to the documentation online. So far, we don't have any questions. I know it can be very overwhelming to hear all of that. But I guess the basic takeaway here for everyone is to understand what Jira is actually capable of doing and how it can help you just by basically improving the linking capabilities. You can include so many more use cases into Jira. And it helps a lot, not only for asset management. It's one of the main use cases, asset management, but also for a lot more use cases. The improving of the native linking features is very important. We do so far for everyone who's on the cloud. So for Atlassian Cloud, we are almost ready for the first release for Atlassian Cloud. So this is currently only available for Jira Server and Data Center, but Atlassian Cloud is coming very soon. And maybe just another information for everyone who's like thinking that there are also other asset management tools out there, asset management add-ons who kind of have the same features, but they are more focusing on, they used to focus on asset management, but now they're more focusing also on other use cases that like the ones that we showed here. And the difference is that we have based all of our features on the native Jira functionalities and other apps who are asset management apps or who also provide similar use cases by linking assets. They also take everything in Jira as an asset, but they're actually not Jira issues. So the difference is that you cannot search for some other apps that are out there. You cannot use the JQL search, for example, or when you configure an asset, you actually configure it in the add-on environment. It's not a Jira issue. If you add additional fields or workflows, these are no Jira fields, no Jira workflows. These are additional, another layer that the add-on brings into Jira. And here we are just leveraging all the features that Jira already has. We're not building something new. So it's much more functioning with other add-ons. So you can integrate it much better with additional add-ons that you already might have. But again, if you have questions about that, also let us know. I see we have one question here. When are you launching the Office Asset project? So I guess this question is related to the one-click setups. So basically what's happening here is that these are kind of presets of assets. You can select to create preset projects with or without sample data. Marie, could you please go to the one-click setup page? Do you have it available here? So you have to go to the Manage Apps. So what's happening with assets, because we use all of the native features, so what the Office Assets would be, it's a new Jira project. It comes with several issue types that we think most of the customers might need if they want to have an Office Assets management system. So we would include the buildings, floors, furniture as issue types, and also offer a workflow for those assets and the issue type screen schemes, and several important custom fields that you need for your Office Assets. But even without this, so to answer your question, I don't know when we're launching that, when it will be ready, but you can already build it yourself. Can you scroll up, please? Yeah, so we have the general type icon library on the top here of the one-click setups. So if you click that, it will create several issue types. Now, can you go to the issue types?
To the issue types.
So it will create several issue types for you, including some nice icons, and they will be available in the default issue type scheme. So you can use them like this. Here, there's a sofa, and a little bit down, there's a stand like for your jackets, there's a table. So the issue types are already there. And yeah, if we have a wardrobe, so it's like a closet, and you can use those issue types already, but you can also create your own issue types if you need like a building, for example. And then you can create your own fields, custom fields that you need for your office equipment or furniture or buildings. And this way, build your own office project, I would say.
Okay.
If you need help with a specific use case, you can also just, if you start using it and you have issues with that, just create a service desk ticket in our service desk and we'll help you out there.
Thank you, Daniel. So I think we have it. And yeah, that was a great tour. So thank you for attendance. And as mentioned, if anything is open, you can just ask us and contact us. So we are very pleased if you can be helped further. And maybe you want to join our other webinar, which is just starting in half an hour about workflows and fields for Confluence. And if so, I also wish you have a nice day, have a nice evening.
Don't forget our discount code, 20% off during the summit for all the licenses if you want to.
Yes, like yesterday in the webinars, we also offer the 20%. So if you're interested in purchasing, also mention that you visited the webinar. And yeah, maybe you will watch the session of the summit later on. And yeah, have a great day and contact if something's open. Thank you.
Take care.